Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello, welcome to the Radical Podcast. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
Today we are talking about the astrological houses. Segment 1, I've got a fun list. And then in segment 2, Nicole has got some really interesting, you said something about different housing systems.
Yep, the housing systems, a little bit on astrocartography and the houses, and then how to make your own moon meanings using the houses.
I like it. I went in my most recently purchased tarot deck is the one I'm using today, the Sacred She Tarot by Ma Deva Padma, and I am so excited to break out this deck. Beautiful cards, beautiful messages. That's segment 3 for a message from the universe. That's all I got. Are you ready to get started, Nicole?
Yes.
So what are the astrological houses? We have been talking about the astrological or the zodiac signs, the astrological year, and whenever we talk about a sign, we talk about the house that it rules. Historically, the astrological houses, dividing up the zodiac into 12 sections, represents different areas of our lives and how the planets and size within them influence those areas. We have the energy of the zodiac sign, the energy of the planets, and then we have the houses. The most common system of the housing system is the Placidus system, but there are other ones, and Nicole's going to touch on those. There are a lot out there, listeners. We're not taught, that is outside the scope of today's podcast. Whatever birth chart you have, whatever you have in front of you is the one that you should use. Do you agree, Nicole?
I think so. I think most of our websites that Western astrology use, I think defaults to Placidus, and that works. That'll give you the information you need.
I've got my free birth chart right here, and the houses are on it, and I'm not going to research, and both my free birth charts have the same alignment. I'm just going to just go with that until I learn something otherwise. But the houses. It starts with your ascending sign or ascent on your birth chart. In astrology, again, the rising sign or ascent is the zodiac sign that was on the eastern horizon at the time of your birth, representing how you represent yourself and your initial impression to others. That is house 1. Whenever you were born, that is where your first house begins. You might find representations, and if you hear paper moving, that's because I have a piece of paper that I handmade my own chart of the houses that I keep referring to. But when I made this chart, I made it to look like the ascent was at Aries. But when I look at my own birth chart, my ascent is at Gemini. That's where the 1 starts. Everybody's birth chart, the houses are going to be at different times on that circular chart. And by times, I mean looking at it like it's like the face of a clock. Okay. These places, these houses in the sky are used to understand how planets and signs influence people's lives in practical ways and concrete ways in areas of our daily lives. Houses help to show where the sky, each luminary, the sun and the moon and the planets appeared when you were born, giving us even more information to interpret. And the placement of the planets in each house, as well as the sign that cusps, which is right on the edge, right at the beginning of the house, is used by astrologers to make interpretation and forecasts about that person's life and future. As we said, the houses are ruled by zodiac signs, giving each house an element and a quality because the signs have elements and qualities. Starting with Aries. So the first house, Aries, ruled by Mars, which is fire. This is a cardinal sign because it's at the spring equinox starting. Well, I just learned there's two reasons why it's called a cardinal. And you probably already know this, Nicole. I was thinking it was relating to the equinoxes and the solstice, but it's also because once you get your birth chart in the circle, the cardinal signs are at north, east, south, and west if you're looking at it like a compass. So that's the real reason they're cardinal signs.
So that would be our ascendant, descendant, imam Coli, and medium Coli.
Yes.
Those are the angles that we talked about in astrocartography.
Yeah. But they also have to do with the wheel of the year and the actual movement of the sun and the actual movement of the earth around the sun. So the first house, Aries, spring equinox, cardinal. That's your ascent. Second house, Taurus, ruled by Venus. This is earth and fixed. This is the middle of spring, and it just truly represents that season. Then we go into the third house, Gemini, Mercury, air, mutable, because that is an overlapping time of year. So it's spring into summer. Then we have the fourth house, which is the second cardinal sign, which is at the bottom center of your birth chart. That is the IC. And I don't know the Latin for that.
Imam Coli.
Imam. Fifth house, Leo, sun, fire, fixed, heart and heat of that summertime. Then the sixth house, Virgo, Mercury, earth, mutable, bridging from summer into fall. Now the third cardinal sign, the seventh house, Libra, Venus, air, that's the fall equinox. Going into the eighth house, Scorpio, Pluto, classically it was Mars, and that is water, fixed, right in the center of that season. Going into the ninth house, Sagittarius, Jupiter, fire, mutable, moving right up into the fourth cardinal, which is the winter solstice, the 10th house, Capricorn, Saturn, Earth. The 11th house is the Aquarius, fixed, Uranus, but it used to be Saturn. And this is air. I think I said that. And it's fixed. And then finally, the 12th house, Pisces, Neptune. It was classically Jupiter. Sometimes you'll see that the 12th house is ruled by Jupiter. That's why I say the classic planets for those houses. And this is water, mutable, end of the year, rebirth into spring. You can look at this like a clock, like a compass. But the fact is that the one starts on your ascent based on the time that you were born. This is so fascinating to me because the cardinal houses, the 1, the 4, the 7, and the 10, each one of those is an element in itself, 1 is fire, 4 is water, 7 is air, and 10 is earth. So each one of those quadrants, each one of those phases, each one of those times has a theme within itself. Sticking with that compass thought of east, west, north, and south, from 1 through 6, because like I said, where your first house is going to start, if you're looking at this as a clock, at the 9 o'clock position. Is that right? 9 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
1 through 6 goes down. Those bottom or lower half houses, 1 through 6, represents more of your internal journey and concepts. And then when we get into the 7th house, which is the third cardinal point, from 7 through 12 is the top part of the birth chart. That represents a more outward social and community concepts.
That's why it's so important in astrocartography to make sure the planetary line you're looking at, that the angle that corresponds to house these cardinal house points that Christina's talking about, you want to make sure that the line or the angle and the planet combination matches the energy you're looking for. So if you want to go somewhere to write a ton of poetry, you wouldn't want to go where your Mercury IC line is, because that's the 4th house. That's in more of the internal realm. You would want to go to your MC Mercury line, for example.
Well, if writing poetry is your life's mission, you want it to be in that 10th house anyway. Like,
Exactly.
you want to be harnessing the energy of
Yeah.
that house. Oh,
Yeah.
and then that place on the earth that matches or that aligns energetically with that house. Talk about the elemental groups. There's 3 in each. Everything based on 12, right, in astrology. So it's either 3, 4, or 12, or 2 of 6. You know what I'm saying? Everything is nice groups. The 3 fire houses, 1, 5, and 9, are like the wands in tarot, because we do talk about how each tarot card has an association with the zodiac. But moving from 1 to 5 to 9, as we journey from the beginning at 1 to the end at 12, there is a growing and an expansion. An example is fire. 1 is who you are, or the first house is who you are. 5, the 5th house, is what lights you up. The 9th house can be what is your heart's desire. So we're born, we learn, we start to figure stuff out, and then we begin to follow deeper concepts than just what we need to survive. Let's talk about the earth, the pentacles, 2, 6, and 10. Those are the 3 earth houses, and the pentacles in tarot. And a very simplified, very linear way of looking at this is the 2nd house, 2, is what do you value? The 6th house in this line of thought can be, how do you pay for it? But then the 10th house along this line of thought is, how much of that do you want? Kind of grows and expands. 3 for air is the 3rd house, the 7th house, and the 11th house. The air element, communication. So the 3rd house could be how you relate to the world. The 7th house, how you relate to the people around you. And then the 11th house, how you relate to your friends and the future. So you can see you're starting with almost like a basic survival type of situation, growing into more of an understanding, more into community, less about you and more about everything around you. And then, of course, just to finish it off, we're going to do the 4 water. The 4th house, home, your home. The 8th house, your emotional journey. And then the 12th house, your healing. Now, that is way simplified for the water and emotions, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. Knowing my point of view when it comes to water is that I want to make it easy for me to understand and digest, but those are very simplified ways to understand how you get from 1 to 9 and from 4 to 12. There's the elemental groups, growing and expansion. Now, opposite houses. This one is really fun. Every house has an opposite house. An example is 1 and 7. And we've already said that 1 is me. That's me, that's my ascent. And 7 as partnerships is me and you. Okay? 2 is what I own, what I have. And then the opposite of that is 8. It's what we own, which is money, taxes. 4, wait, let me not skip. 3 and 9. And then I put this one sort of with the travel spin on it. 3 is like your local commute, your local area. 9 is your international growth and travel. 4 and 10, and these are our cardinal ones, right? This is the IM and the M, IC and the MC. So 4 being your home, and 10 is your career, your mission. 5 and 11, 5 is how you give love. 11 is how you receive love, your friendships, your society, your wishes, your hopes. And then 6 and 12, 6, this is so oversimplified. 6 is conscious and 12 is unconscious. So if 6 is like what you do to pay the rent, 12 is like healing your karma.
When I had my astrocartography reading, these were labeled the challenging, difficult, not fun houses.
Yes. I loved putting them in groups like this because I knew they were fire and all this other stuff. But then to think about how the fire evolves, how the earth evolves, how like pentacle, how your mind evolves. And then we want to talk about the journey of the houses. So I've been talking about elemental groups and oppositions, but essentially, what is what do the houses represent? And there are so many interpretations out there, listeners. I find a new phrase associated with each house every time I read an article, every time I listen to a podcast, every time I watch a video. We can really generalize. And I want to tie it to the fool's journey in tarot, which is kind of like the hero's journey, which is kind of like our life's purpose. Starting with 1. You ready to go through the houses, Nicole? 1. Self. Ego. The beginning.
Our identity, which is ego, and the physical body.
Yes. House 2. Value. Money. Land. Comfort.
Security and self-worth.
Self-worth. House 3. Language, communication, travel. Like local travel, not big travel. Like how you get to work, how you go to the grocery store, that kind of stuff.
And I would add siblings, early education, and our neighbors, our close neighbors.
Yeah, I just learned about siblings in 3, and it totally clicked with me because it's that they called it sibling chatter, and just the things that you hear or you heard as a young person that kind of shaped a lot of your communication skills. Okay, 4th house. I think that I almost said health, but it's not health. It's hearth. Is that how you say that? Hearth? Hearth?
Hearth.
Hearth. Home and hearth. Security, family. This is also private and roots.
Ancestry, and specifically the father.
I heard that today too. And also, because it's the moon, it could be the mother. And then 4 is, and then, excuse me, because like 4 and 10 are in opposition. And since the moon is 4 and Saturn is 10, classically you would think moon mother, Saturn father, but the reversal is also absolutely plausible as well. House 5. Pleasure, love, romance, fun and play.
And children.
Like, yes, an actual like fertility and sex as well. House 6. This it starts getting complicated. 6 is health, and not just good health, but also poor health. Illness, healing, details, daily need to do stuff, pets, routines, pay the rent.
I have also our diets,
Mm.
our jobs. I kind of think of that too a little bit like our chores,
Mm-hmm.
coworkers, and small animals.
The 7th house, partnerships, business partnerships, diplomacy, law, and open enemies. Not hidden enemies, the ones you know.
I have long term one on one relationships. So, exactly the business partnerships that you have. It does include marriage, but it doesn't have to be romantic.
The 8th house, rebirth, reincarnation. I can't read my own handwriting. Intrigue, sex, espionage, but most importantly, death and taxes. And like legacy money,
Mm-hmm.
inheritance. That's the we own.
Yes. Yes, the we own.
Mm-hmm.
So, other people's values and
Mm-hmm.
money, mysteries, spirituality, joint finances.
The 9th house, philosophy, theory, ideas, thinking, religion, spirituality, and long travel, graduate school, learning, training,
Metaphysics.
mental mental and physical expansion and metaphysics. The 10th house, it's a big one. Your career, social status, fame, power, and wealth.
Legacy, public image, and my note page has mother because it had father in the fourth house.
Mm-hmm. The 11th house, friendships, hopes and wishes and the future. But also, that was like a new kind of thing because it's also support and social groups. I think it has a lot to do with building the building exactly what kind of relationship you want with the social, the people around you, the social world around you.
Social causes. And did you say luck?
I might have, but I just found out that that's the lucky house.
Yeah. If 6 and 12 are the unfun houses, 5 and 11 are the fun houses.
That's a good one. Yes, because 5 is how you give love and 11 is how you receive love.
Mm-hmm.
Um and yes, that makes, and that's what I was like, how you receive love how you are open to receiving love from the people around you, from the community around you. But also, and that is hopes and wishes in the future. I was really interested in the 11th house today. Kind of got a lot of new thoughts about the 11th house today. Okay, the final house, the 12th house, spirit, emotion, soul, unconscious, the universal end, deep emotions, stepping away, hidden enemies. Sometimes that's your own shadow. Undoing yourself, just all that stuff, all that deep emotional stuff.
Shadow work, meditation, dreams, limitations, introspection, trauma. And if you believe in reincarnation, this could be sometimes literal bondage from a past life.
Mm.
That was taught to me recently. So, yeah, this one's a little, can be a little dark and traumatic at like the deep, deep, deep levels, or it could be more light and be meditative, dreamy, just maybe a little bit below the surface instead of all the way down into the depths.
I love that it's lined up with the first astrological house, Aries. I love that Aries starts at the spring equinox, which in a lot of cultures is the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of the agricultural year. It's the beginning of the astrological year. It might not be the beginning of our calendar year, but it is still a start. The journey from the seed sprouting out of the ground in that first house in Aries, going all the way to rotting away and dying, and then planting and then releasing its seeds to grow other seeds, known as that fool's journey. The realization of man to move from the self to a partnership, to the community, to a higher level of understanding. This isn't a straight line. This isn't, I'm through house 1 through 4, I'm in 5 now, then I'm going to do 6 and 7. You can skip houses. You can go backwards in houses. You can be relating to a house without having any connection to another house. This is not a straight line, and this is not is chronological. It's not a chronological journey. It's a metaphysical journey, which means that time isn't in a straight line. So you can be going in any direction.
Right. And one of the things I'm talking about in the second segment is using the houses to create your own interpretations each moon cycle for each new moon and full moon. And so in a given year, you'll probably touch on all of your houses.
I mean, I go through these 12 houses in a day. From the point I wake up, build energy, have good ideas, have bad ideas, have my feelings hurt, get stung by a bee, forget to forget to do something. And then from the moment you close your eyes and you let all of that stuff ruminate in your soul or let it go, like we live this out every day, moving with the energy of the physical sun. I mean, this could be a decision, this could be a business. These 12 houses could relate to any type of event or situation of your life. Everything has its own cycle. It could be a 30-day goal that you have. Like Nicole said, you could be doing a moon cycle moving through all these houses. You could be doing a year of transformation moving through all those houses. It's just like the chakras. You don't just move up and heal each one as you go. It's the same thing as the house. You just don't, oh, I'm finished with house 1. I don't need to go back there. It's fluid. We're moving in and out of them all the time. And that's my opinion. And then that's it. That's my list, Nicole. Did I skip anything? If I did, I'll remember it. If I'm meant to say it, I'll say it. If I skipped it, it was meant to be skipped. But I got really into this today. This really spoke to me today. I learned so much just doing my basic open source search, listen to wonderful people talk about this and explain it so beautifully. I feel like I have a whole nother level of richness and understanding in my birth chart because of this.
So you really do need to know your birth time and birthplace when we're talking about houses.
I know. I heard that today. And the person who was speaking, they were so just, sympathetic. They're like, you could do a lot with like a 12 o'clock or like you could pick a time, but knowing the time really is helpful.
The planet that's rising on the east at the time of your birth and the place of your birth changes every 2 hours. So our clock face really does hinge on the ascendant.
Do you think that the ascendant sign is more a person than their sun sign?
I think a lot of astrologers will argue that that's true.
I was watching last year when I still had Netflix, I was watching one of the reality TV shows, but it was in Brazil. And I was watching it. They do a really awesome thing where they dub it and you can still watch. It's very, very good. But they never asked each other what their sun sign was. They asked, what was your ascent? It's a very cultural thing that we are tied to our sun signs so deeply. That's not really the only way of getting a snapshot of somebody. I think the ascent is a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more the person as opposed to the sun, which is their ego.
I would agree. Yeah. So when we're talking about birth time and place, giving us our ascendant, our rising sign information, and then setting our houses up in our birth chart, we can use different housing systems. I'm only going to talk about 2 house systems. There are many others, and Christina and I have talked about Placidus. We mentioned at the beginning of the episode today that this seems to be the default house system if you go to astro.com, let's say. So Placidus is a quadrant-based system. It divides the chart using the time it takes for the ascendant degree to rise to the midheaven. The house sizes vary depending on your location and time of birth. Some houses can be larger or smaller than others. You might visibly notice this looking at your birth chart, the actual wheel, and see the varying sizes. The ascendant in Placidus always marks the beginning of the first house at the 9 o'clock position. And typically speaking, the midheaven falls within the 10th house. It may not be the cusp, but usually the midheaven falls within the 10th house under this house system. Whole sign is another popular system for placing the houses on your birth chart. What is different is each zodiac sign corresponds to one whole entire house or 30 degrees each on the birth chart. With Placidus, the houses may span 2 zodiac signs, and in whole sign, it's sort of that one-to-one correspondence. The ascendant marks the first house's sign, but the degree of the ascendant in whole sign can float within that house rather than defining the cusp. That's a pretty important difference. All the houses are equal size, and the midheaven, using the whole sign house system, can fall anywhere in the 9th, 10th, or the 11th house. Some astrologers will use both house systems. I read that Placidus is typically used more often in psychological type astrology. It's more nuanced and internally focused. It is perhaps more about how you experience life. The whole sign may be more externally or fate based, looking at external circumstances that happen in your life. And it is possibly a little bit more straightforward and easier to interpret. In my birth chart, I'm used to Placidus. When I first generated my birth chart, that was the default. I didn't know there was any difference. So that's what I've gotten used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my whole sign chart out of curiosity, and there were two really big differences that I noticed immediately. My Pluto in Placidus is in the 12th house, but in whole sign, it's in the first house. That is
Oh,
such a huge shift. The
that seems
12th
like,
house being like the
yeah,
unconscious realm, the not fun house, the trauma house,
the
to the
not fun
first.
house.
And then shifting Pluto into that identity, ego, physicality house, I was like, whoa, that's so different. My son also shifted 9th house in Placidus to the 10th house under whole sign. So my
Mm.
son moved from the house of higher education, spirituality, metaphysics to the 10th house of career and legacy. I don't know what I'm going to do with that information. Maybe one day I will look at that more closely and see if it has any deeper meaning to me, but it can also be a little overwhelming. Not all of my planets changed houses, but I would say about half did.
Wow.
Now in astrocartography, your houses can change when you move. This is the whole idea behind a relocation chart.
Oh, oh, that makes sense.
Your natal planets stay in the same zodiac
Yeah.
sign. So moving from, the East Coast to the West Coast or to Europe isn't going to change my sun in Leo, but it can change what house my sun in Leo is in. Because again, this is tied to the ascendant, that 9 o'clock position, what was on the eastern horizon.
Hmm.
So houses are tied to place and time. So your natal planets will stay in the same zodiac sign, but they can shift into different houses based on your geographic location. This means you experience planetary energy differently through these different areas of your life. Moving doesn't change what planets you have in which sign, but it changes where in your life those planetary energies play out. You can't alter cosmic timing. You can't alter transits that are going to happen with your birth chart, but you can change how and where the planetary energies express themselves. And this reminded me of my recent astrocartography reading because my astrologer said we cannot control time, but we can control space. we can kind of change our location and change the planetary expressions by visiting or moving to different places around the globe. So, for fun, today I made a relocation chart to Vancouver, Canada, since I was just there. When I do that, my ascendant changes from Scorpio to Libra. My Sun and Mercury move into the 10th house of public image. In my natal chart, they're in the 9th house, but when I do a relocation chart, they move into the 10th house.
Wow.
So, again, if you're looking to achieve a particular goal, if you're looking for a relationship, if you want to take a personal retreat, if you want to go on a trip and write a book or write your poetry, you can kind of play with your location and get your planets to move into different houses so that the energy that is expressed by those different placements helps support you in your goals. So that's the concept between astrocartography, but also a relocation chart.
That is so cool.
You can also use houses to create and derive a more personal meaning for new moons, full moons, and eclipses. So by the time this podcast comes out, we will be just beyond the March 29th new moon and partial solar eclipse. But an eclipse can be felt, that energy can be felt for, I read like 6 months, maybe longer. So I'm going to talk about this eclipse, even though it was last week. The new moon and partial solar eclipse was in 9 degrees of Aries. So what you want to ask yourself is, in what house does 9 degrees of Aries fall? And in my chart, it's the 5th house of creativity and romance. So I could say this new moon and partial solar eclipse is activating that area of my life. And because it's a new moon, the energy is super powerful and supportive around intention setting, creating goals, that sort of thing. So my formula that I made is you take the new moon theme or activity plus the sign the moon is in, Aries, plus your activated house. And you can come up with your own personal meaning for that moon on March 29th. So it could
Nice.
be something just super simple, like at a new moon, I want to set intentions and use the initiation energy of Aries in the area of my 5th house, creativity and romance. And we talked about eclipses last week. The March 29th partial solar eclipse is the final eclipse in this 6 eclipse set of Aries and Libra. You could take it one step further and consider what your personal narrative has been through these 6 eclipses. And it's interesting that this set, the Aries Libra set, is ending on a new moon. So just some things you could include in your personal meaning of this eclipse. Now, coming up on April 12th, 2025, there's a full moon in Libra. So you can ask yourself, where is 22 degrees of Libra? What house is that? So for me, this is my 12th house. Full moons typically are about culmination, closure, or completion. They are also about trimming the tree, if you like that metaphor, kind of pruning away what no longer serves or letting go. So again, the formula, the full moon theme, the sign the moon is in, Libra, the house that is being activated in your chart, yields your meaning. So for me, very simply, culmination, full moon, balance, Libra, and unconscious, 12th house. And we can take it one layer deeper. Let's say the new moon or the full moon is conjunct a planet in your chart, and a conjunction being within 3 degrees of that planet. So you can add to your formula if you want. And if this is like too much, then you can just stick with the formula we've already created. But if you want to add on, you can. What you're adding on is the house cusp contained within the sign ruled by the planet conjuncting the moon. We talked about conjunctions a couple episodes ago. This is the notion of a visitor. So, in other words, a conjunction in this example would be the current moon visiting an area in your chart already occupied by a planet within 3 degrees to either side. If you don't have that, you can again just stick with the formula we've been using to create your meaning. You're not always going to have a conjunction, but if you do, that just adds yet another layer for that moon's meaning for you. For example, if Pluto was conjunct this moon, I would say Pluto rules Scorpio, and in my chart, Scorpio contains my first house cusp. So my meaning becomes culmination plus balance plus unconscious plus self-identity equals my moon meaning for April 12th.
I like it. I like looking at the degrees and thinking about that as another element. Because I've got my big birth chart printout and the degrees are right on there. And I never really paid attention to them until very recently. Are you ready to hear the message from the universe?
I am.
I am using the Sacred She Tarot by Ma Deva Padma. This is a new deck for me, and I am very excited about it. Such a beautiful reimagination of the tarot cards and tarot meanings, beautiful artwork, beautiful symbolism. I have 3 cards, which is weird for me because usually I only do 2, but today there are 3. You pick A, B, or C. Card A, satisfaction. This big cat has learned by trial and error how to excel in her field. In every endeavor, she aims for being the best. Yet she is the first to admit that refusal of second best can mean missing out altogether. Her respected position attracts both envy and criticism that she accepts as part of the territory. She enjoys flexing her skills with a Cheshire Cat grin, admits to loving a good challenge that keeps her at the top of her game. For this individual, home is a sanctuary that emphasizes her natural elegance and singular lifestyle. If partnered, she maintains her autonomy. Her satisfaction comes from having mastered the chops to achieve the positive outcome she's worked hard for. And with all the boxes ticked, she enjoys the comforts of a life well lived. She holds those who express ingenuity and fortitude in high regard, even when they encroach on her territory. She is generous and supportive if she senses a need, but she remains unmoved when approached by those seeking to take advantage of her. As this force of nature dreams of broadening her prospects, she appraises her many accomplishments while enjoying the fragrance of roses and savoring a well-deserved bowl of cream. Card B, focus. This owl's objective is fully focused on finding a rich hunting ground to use her considerable skills. Her sights are set on attaining excellence by exposing weakness, improving conditions, and uncovering facts. Owls represent wisdom and keen observation that prevent them from becoming emotionally tangled up in small-minded pursuits. They conserve energy and wait for the moment they sense is right to make a move, when all their efforts will pay off. Sharp-eyed awareness empowers her to avoid traps that ensnare less practiced others. As an ally, she is designed for the job of oversight, identifying what has previously been hidden or camouflaged to befuddle or distract. Hold the vision of achieving your goal and strategize how to attain it. As you proceed, trust your instincts, tend to detail, and ignore alluring prospects that pop up along the way. Seek out better hunting grounds to feel empowered and inspired. Your uncanny ability to spot little things that, upon closer scrutiny, are found to be important stirs up envy or mistrust in others. Don't let their side glances steer you away from your focus. You've come too far to get caught up in pettiness. Aim high. And note that with increased confidence comes greater responsibility. Clear up unfinished business before you move on. By freeing yourself from an entangled hindrance, you'll know how to avoid similar traps in the future. Once freed from preoccupation with the past, you'll move swiftly towards all that you so richly deserve. And C, clarity. A diamond forms under pressure, deep within the earth. Dark and lumpy when mined, the stone's unrealized potential can be brought forth only by those who know how to look into its heart. Guided by this perception, each facet is revealed through conscious, meticulous cutting and polishing. During a lifetime, we encounter pressures, many of which seem inescapable, that build into a longing for definition and clarity. Hardships, confusion, disappointments, these are the forces that forge our inner strength and enable clear understanding. Clear-sightedness does not arise overnight. It comes from an emerging awareness based on experience that reveals the mind's tendency to complicate, overthink, and project its own ideas and desires onto reality. Mindfulness practice helps to establish moment-to-moment awareness, while meditation calms the overactive mind. Together, they open us to a view of this clear sky that lies beyond the clouds of our thoughts. In that sky, we find a relaxed inner spaciousness that trusts in life rather than troubles over it. A calm centeredness arises when each facet of progress is acknowledged as having been essential for creating wholeness. This time-honored practice is called polishing the diamond. Every gem is unique. What they all have in common is starting out rough and withstanding multiple pressures and endurance tests until their inner beauty is finally brought to light. The clarity offered now results from polishing your awareness into a treasure that can never be lost.
That was my card.
Clarity?
Yeah, I liked that.
On a side note, clarity traditionally is the Ace of Swords. This author has reimagined the decks and the imagery, but she still included the classic, like satisfaction is the Nine of Pentacles. And the two focus is the Two of Wands.
I like that when they map it back to the traditional tarot card.
I love that people are doing this, of giving us, the Two of Wands, of giving us continual interpretations and understandings, and people are experiencing the tarot and learning from the tarot and then sharing everything that they've learned and seen and meditated on. I love it. I love a new tarot deck, a new spin on things, and a new understanding, another point of view. I love it.
We start our tarot class on Saturday.
Yes, I'm very excited.
That'll be fun.
Can't get enough tarot these days.
Thank you so much, listeners. And we will be back next week. We love you. Take care of each other.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.